Hello traders, today is Wednesday, March 13th, and we are taking a look at the S&P here. It's been in a really nice bullish trajectory. It has continued from this J-hook pattern that I pointed out that we had gotten after we'd gotten the sell signals, and it bounced right back up and coming back into this long upwards trend channel. Looks like I took off this other line here that was the original trend channel, and as you can see we have gotten right back into there. But we do have this bigger channel, and I have that mapped out, and you can see how we're moving forward on that. As soon as we came back up through the 8 EMA, which is the red line that you see on this chart, the 8 exponential moving average is a trigger point that I have come to rely on and believe in. I noticed that charts will tend to go down when they cross below the 8 EMA, and they will tend to go up when they cross up through it, and continue going up as long as they stay above that 8 EMA. That's why when we had these sell-offs here and we closed below the 8 EMA, we took that as a sell signal. We reduced our long positions until this all firmed up and got us back up in this bullish pattern, in this bullish environment. Currently, we are basing out a bit up here. Clearly, yesterday, some folks took a little bit of profits. We see that red candle, but no harm for us, no rest for the weary. Just let the 8 EMA catch up a little bit, and we're bouncing right back up in the green area today. We clearly are making a little spot of resistance here that we are not yet through, and so we'll probably want to watch for a break of that area. This upper line that I have up here, this up here is the 2007 high, and I suspect that will give us some resistance around 1573. Going through some of the stocks in my portfolio, we have Electronic Arts, which is continuing on its uptrend and staying above the 8 EMA. Every so often it comes back and fills, touching the 8 EMA before it continues higher. In this particular day it did close below. What date was that? 2/28. We stayed in here and waited to see if it was going to open and trade lower the next day, but instead made a doji sandwich, the doji in the middle of the two larger bars, and continued upward on its upward move above the 8 EMA. So we are still in this, I should say I am still in this EA, and it's doing well for me, up nearly 9% in this position. So we'll continue holding that as long as it continues to stay above the 8 EMA. ETFC, legal mentioned this morning, out of this J-hook pattern, kind of making a little cup and handle or a little inverse head and shoulders here, this being your head and here being your shoulder and here being another shoulder, starting to break out of that today. Clearly there was some resistance right in here, and we've broken through that resistance today, staying above the 8 EMA, so I expect we can move on higher and get some higher prices in here. You can easily see this same kind of move that came out of this rounded bottom, come out of this rounded bottom, and end up back up in here. So we will stay in this as long as it stays above the 8 EMA. It's doing a good job for us. You know, it's funny, I always swore I would never say we, and I would always say I, because these are my positions, and but I know lots of you got into them with me, so I feel like we're all in this together. I understand kind of now why people do that, but I'm going to try and stay with me and say I myself and I am in ABMD as well. Got in 1642 on March 5th. Where was that? Right in here. After it came down to the 8 EMA and then bounced back up, it consolidated this move nicely and got ready to make its next wave, which it's doing now. The 200-day is coming down to reach it, and the 8 EMA continues to rise higher. The 21 and the 50 are also rising, which is nice to see below it. I suspect this will base out a bit in here, let the ADMA catch up, and start crunching with the 200-day. We'll see from there if it decides to break back out of the 200-day. Again, nice profits in here, sitting on 6.5% profits in here. As long as it stays above the ADMA, I'll stay in. TIBX, I took last week as it gave us the sell signal right at the open, came up through, obviously breaking this downward trend and popping up through all of the major moving averages except for the 200, which is above, but the ADMA, the 21-day, the 50, and is now basing out really nicely, making a nice little flag here. This looks to me like it's going to let the ADMA catch up and then take another move to the upside. Again, I'll stay in TIBX. This is a really, really bullish buy signal when you have this downward trend and then you have this big move up like this. That pretty much tells you they want to take this higher. My BSX is down in my port by, 0.7%, which isn't a lot. And this is clearly riding the ADMA. We see this really nice rounded bottom here. This is clearly a J-hook formation coming out of an uptrend. J-hooking out here can easily take this line up, but it's just still backing and filling and riding the ADMA. What's nice though here is you can see it bounces right where it should and stays above the ADMA and continues to close above that level. So I suspect it's just building up steam, and soon we're going to see a really nice move to the upside. Of course, if it closes below that ADMA, I'll get out, and if it comes back up through, then that'll be my chance to get back in. But for now, it's staying above, and so I'm still in. Here is GLUU, which I jumped into here after this doji day, and then it popped through all these MAs, got into it, and stayed in for the swing. It broke this downtrending line right here on that signal, bought it with this big green volume, and of course the next day, boom. Oh, I shouldn't say boom. I don't like to say boom. But here it popped up on some good news. It looks to be consolidating that news now. It's got a nice big pocket of volume up here to move through. And again, I will stay in this as long as it continues to stay above yesterday's low and stays in this volume pocket. I suspect it'll come to at least the top of the volume pocket and possibly to the 200-day moving average, which might come back down to it. Notice this, we had these succession of higher lows here and this nice rounded bottom, and that worked really, really nicely. It still is working really nicely. Took half off yesterday for 25% profits and am sitting in the rest to let it play out. PTEN I took yesterday on this break of this resistance level with this candle. It's still sitting in there. It probably needs to let the ADMA catch up. But this is a bit more to me than a resistance level because this is an ascending triangle, which is a nice bullish pattern. You see this up line here or here. You can really draw either line, either the shorter time frame or the longer time frame, but this is an ascending triangle with a flat top and a rising bottom. All these moving averages are rising beneath really nicely. The ADMA crossed up through the 21-day, and now it is working on this resistance level. But I suspect that it's just letting this ADMA catch up a bit before it takes that next move. You could also see this as a J-hook pattern here coming out of this uptrend. Here's your J hook, and it will hook back up to here. Lastly, took CREE today. Been waiting for an entry on this one. This is one that I play quite often, as many of you know, and was frustrated that I wasn't in it as it was making these moves, but I had to wait till I got my right entry, and I didn't want to chase it. So I stuck to my rules, and I stayed disciplined, and I waited. And today, as it broke out of this flag area, was a perfect entry, got in, it's moving higher, I'm liking it. A few requests. ZNGA, if you're in ZNGA, you can stay in as long as it stays above the ADMA. If not, I would say this could be construed as a sell signal, because you have this, they bought it up, then they sold it back down, and then they sold it down from there. However, it did bounce off of this ADMA. It isn't an upward trend. Clearly, somebody wants to take this higher. So I think if you're in it, you can hold it as long as it stays above that ADMA. You can also see that you had a level of resistance here on this triangle that it broke up through, and it's also staying above that. As far as getting into ZNGA, I would say wait, see what it does tomorrow. If it opens green tomorrow off of this ADMA and bounces back up, you could buy it then using the ADMA as your stop. CROX has this little bit of resistance here that it's trying to break out of today. All the moving averages are rising beneath. It broke up nicely above the 8 EMA and has been from last Wednesday. So it is rising above the ADMA nicely. And I think that probably just needs another day or two to work on this resistance before it moves higher. Of course, if it were to fall below that ADMA or close below that ADMA, that would be a sell signal. But for now, this CROX is still looking pretty good. KKD, we determined, has earnings tomorrow, but this is a really nice chart. The way this came down into back to letting the ADMA catch up after this big move, based out. Stocks correct in one of two ways. Either they come down or they can go flat until they are no longer overbought. And we like to see that when they base out into a sort of a flag pattern instead of coming downward. This is a really bullish way to correct, letting this ADMA catch up, and now you have this nice big bullish candle here. Hasn't quite broken out of here yet. Of course, there's earnings tomorrow afternoon, so we don't know what's going to happen with that, and we don't want to take that chance. But this is an interesting one to watch. You can see that it's done this on many occasions. Wave 1, wave 2, taking on a new wave here. FOSL is an interesting chart. I don't know that I would want to get into this because it seems to be stuck in this range. Every time it goes below or above, it comes right back into this range while you have a nice bullish candle coming out of the ADMA. I don't know if this chart wants to hold the bottom level or hold the top level. One way you could play this that would probably work would be to sell credit spreads on both sides as an iron condor and get way out of the money, because this has currently not telling me that it's going to get out of this range, and I think it's going to stay in that area for a while. Lastly, for Sylvan, for JJ, we have AMTD, which I know that you have been riding as it's been coming up, as it came up through this ADMA on this J-hook pattern with this rounding bottom. It looks beautiful, my friend. No reason to get out of this now. It looks like it's going to consolidate a little bit here and let the ADMA catch up. You have a doji sandwich today, doji yesterday with the two larger bodies on either side. This is going higher. I think certainly it will go to the top of this, whatever I drew this channel for here. The recent highs, rather the weekly highs. That's that early resistance level there. Certainly, I think you can take it to there and just keep riding it as long as it stays above the ADMA. Very nice trade here, my friend. And on that note, I have talked through a very long video, so I'm going to call it. Good luck trading, everybody. I'll see you in the chat room.